Okay, did I record here? Is it all in? Okay, we're recording now, and I'm sharing the screen right now, and I just wanted to show you that on Blackboard I actually added a link so that right off of Blackboard you can get right into the MS Teams, you know, when you come on, and get to our webinar. So, and now that I have this little piece up, wanted to show you that if you want to find out a little bit about me, you can go to where are we here? Faculty information, and under faculty information, there's my bio, and then you can find out all about me, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we get started going through. The next thing that's interesting here, excuse me, is this is for group sign up, and we want you to sign up for groups as soon as you possibly can. And what it is the groups are to be no more than 3 people. And when you press on this link, you'll get right into groups on Blackboard. Then you can look at the teams, and especially if you have some some friends that you've worked with in the past, by all means, please bring them on board. And what I'll tell you about that as well is that once you get into a group, if for any reason that you want to change to get into another group, you must email me, and please email me on my RDP email. Don't use the Blackboard email if you want me to respond quickly, all right? And I prefer that you use the RDP email. Now I see that there's about 5 people with their hands up, so I'll take some questions here if you want, so anybody can unmute and ask me a question. Any questions at all? John, did you have a question? I see your hands up for twice here. Arita? Okay, maybe you don't know you have your hands up. Okay, so let me start with this presentation. And I have a lot to share with you. And what will happen is I really have 2 presentations, but I don't think we're going to have enough time in this time allotment to cover both of them. So what I'm going to do then is the second presentation is on the evolution of management principles, and it ties right into topic 1. And what I hope to do is I will do a recording, and then I'll put the link on Blackboard so that you can go through that, and then I'll also well, actually the slide deck is actually posted under what are they called? I call them sorry. Let me just show you. All right, I'll just okay. What I have is sorry, that's not it. Okay, so just to reiterate, so here's where you press on this link to get into doing your teams, and then these are the various topics. So we're going to cover 13 topics over the duration of this course, and the first 12 topics are going to be tested upon. And I'll talk about that. So like test 1 will be topics 1, 2, 3, and 4. Test 2 will be topics 5, 6, 7, 8, and then test 3 will be topics 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then topic 13 is mainly a general information topic that will help you when you leave this program, and then I'll cover off a few pieces. But this is what I wanted to get to you here about, is the weekly commentary. So what I do is every week I'm going to update what's here. So if you take a look at weekly commentary, weekly commentary week 1, you'll see that, just in this revision, I just revised this yesterday. So you know that that's a fresh PowerPoint presentation. And so this is what I'm working off of this evening. And then the evolution of management theory is a presentation that you should have a look at. And what I'm going to do is I'll do a recording on that because this is really, it will really help you get a sense of how these theorists that we're going to talk about in topic one, how they come together, in the very time periods, and you can see how this all develops. All right, so that's what that is all about. Okay, so let me just get back to where I was. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're going to begin with the end in mind. Okay, and just let me get back so I can see what's going on here. So okay, so we're back to, I can see the class now, and we'll get started. So we're going to begin with the end in mind. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Stephen Covey, and he's passed on now, and he's a motivational speaker and a trainer. And this is a famous quote of his: "To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination." And my background is I come from a strategic planning background. So just a little bit about me is that I'm a chemist, chemical engineer, MBA, and my strengths is I worked in strategic planning for many years, and I've done a lot of business planning in consulting and things. So I actually ran the strategic planning process for TELUS back in the late 90s and early 2000s. So what that means is that I looked after the strategic plan, not only in the company, but at the board level, down into the holding company and down into their subsidiaries, and then the businesses that those subsidiaries owned, and they call those strategic business units. So I've got a large background in planning, and I kind of bring that back because management, one of the key functions of the 4 functions of management is planning. So I keep coming back to that to be able to share that with you. And I've had many types of working opportunities because being a chemist and a chemical engineer and then an MBA, I've worked as a process engineer, and then I've worked as a business person, and right down from line level to medium level management. And then I left TELUS as a vice president of strategic accounts, which was a sales and marketing organization that ran about a budget of about $270 million a year. So I've got a lot of different types of experience that I can bring to the table. So let me get back to Stephen Covey. Excuse me, and just when we say let's begin with the end in mind, well, let's look at what I hope that you're going to leave with when you leave this course. And what it is that we're exploring the management principles, theories, concepts, and frameworks of management, and how these lead to effective management of organizations. And what's key here is that I not only want to give you the content and give you some insights as to how management principles come together and how they're used, but I also want you to think about yourself and what you really plan to do is begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to be, and then how you get to be an elite business practitioner to be able to use these concepts. So in some cases, we're gonna do a lot with the Pearson Revel program or text, and there's many Revel surveys that you're going to take to be able to see where you are at, and I'll talk about that because if you want to begin with the end in mind and you want to understand how to get there, you really have to know where you start from. Okay, but where are you now? And I'll talk about that. So I just want to excuse me, and just identify Art Turk. And Art Turk really, he took some concepts that were developed by a person named Anders Ericsson. And Anders Ericsson spent 30 years researching how elite performers get to, you know, the virtuoso and the elite performance that they're at those levels. And what how Anders looked at that is he coined this term called deliberate practice. And we're going to talk about deliberate practice. And guess what? In this course, we're going to be doing some deliberate practice. And what deliberate practice is, you can practice all you want, but if you don't have key goals in each level that you perform at, you're never really going to advance to be an elite performer. And where did Art Turek come from? Well, he looked at how elite athletes get, you know, how they get to be, you know, great in their perspectives and how they do things. And it's not just, you know, you just because you're smart and you got good marks and you've got some skills doesn't mean that you're going to be very successful in business. It's all about mindset and everything that comes together and how you approach things to be able to get to those levels of performance. And I just encourage you to go to this link. And what it is, it's one of his short videos, and he'll give you an idea of what, you know, deliberate practice is all about and how you could become an elite business performer, an elite business practitioner. And that's what I hope that we're going to, you know, I can share with you so that you can leave this course with not just knowing a lot more about management principles, but really knowing a lot more about yourself, where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Okay? Now, whenever there's a pause, I'd appreciate it that, you know, ask questions. You know, you can either use the chat, and let me put the chat back on here so I can see it. So you can use the chat piece to ask a question, or if there's a pause, unmute and ask the question. I'd really appreciate your feedback as I'm going along, because there may be some cases where you'll want a clarification, and maybe I can share.
Mr. Gary, you are being mute.
You know, I talked all this time and I was muted. Okay, did I just cut out, or do I have to start all over again here?
You just now, just like a few seconds ago.
Sorry, I can hardly hear you. So you can say that again? Just
now, just a few seconds ago.
Okay, yeah. And I thank you for letting me know that, because it happens like sometimes I'll admit someone in and then all of a sudden I mute myself, and I don't know how that happens, but that's what happens. And secondly, sometimes I'll be pulling up another file and I tend not to share that file and I'm talking about it. So if you think I'm talking about something you're not seeing, please let me know as soon as you can, all right, so that I can correct that. Okay, so let me get back to deliberate practice. So what you're going to find in the topics is that you're going to see two types of participation. One is the actual participation activities. And what goes on there is that this is a practice session, and you'll say, well, I'm only getting 1 mark for this participation activity, but I'm going to show you later on that every one of these things that you do is a building block for something you're going to be asked to do in these assignments that you're going to be assigned to, right? And then as you go through the topics, you're going to be asked to do certain Pearson Revel surveys, and they're preparing you for what's coming up in these assignments as well, so that you'll have insights as to, you know, what you need to do. So example, like in the individual project manager, it's the individual project, sorry, it's a manager style self-determination that's due February the 6th. And it's a personal assignment, so it's an individual assignment. It's worth 10 marks towards your final mark. And what it's going to ask you to do is talk about, you know, how you relate to communications as a manager. Well, the participation activities and the learning activities that you're going to go through before you get there will prepare you to do a better assignment. And I'll give you more detail on that, you know, as I pull up these assignments when we go through a few more slides, okay? And I've got a slide on here where I show you where all the assessments are on Blackboard, and then what I really recommend is that, you know, you take these assignments and as individuals for the individual assignment, and as individuals or team members for the team member assignments, and have a look at them to see what's required, because then it'll speak to you a lot better when you're going through these participation activities. And what I'm asking you to do is that when you go through these participation activities, store all that information. And I'm going to give you a lot of what I call mental models or platform or frameworks to be able to put your information on and store that, because when you get to those final assignments, especially the team project, most of your learning around what's required for that will be done, and then you'll just have to shift it to the context of, say, on the team project, which is Amazon. So for example, you'll probably have to do an analysis in the participation where you're, as a team, you're building a gingerbread house. But that analysis framework, you know, you're gonna be asked to comment on that on the team project for Amazon. So if you really put the practice into this, and knowing that, okay, it's only worth 1 mark from a participation point of view, but it's really going to prepare you. So by the time that you get to work directly on that assignment, you're not rushing through in the last 2 days trying to put everything together, and you really understand what you've done, and it'll make the learning that much more effective for you. So that's where I'm trying to go, and I'll elaborate on that as I go through that. So that's the whole idea. You can see that these are building blocks for these assignments that you're going to be asked to do. Okay, and then I'm just going to ask someone there to mute themselves, okay, to do that. So here's another thing that I'm going to tell you about. Okay, so I showed you that okay, so this presentation is the weekly commentary for topic 1. And what I do in that is that what's key in the content of this course is when you go into each topic, there's a slide deck. That's the primary vehicle to be able to study from, right? And what I do on the weekly commentary is that I will highlight things so that you can focus on these key areas, because there's so much information. And if you follow me on these weekly commentary presentations, then you're going to be able to know what's really important and where the test questions will lie. Now, will I give you, what the question looks like? No, I will show you where to look. And so how you do this is that, and I'll give you an example. So let me just go right to an example here. Okay, you see this slide? This slide is taken right from this slide deck that's in topic 1. But what I've done is I've highlighted types of management. So you're going to have to know things about types of management to be able to answer questions on the test, right? So it's giving you an idea of where to focus, and it won't give you the whole piece. So what you do is you go to the slide deck, and you learn all about types of management. And then what Professor Powers has done, who put this course together, is that she has several video recordings that are broken down into, the concept categories, so that you may want to listen and watch her talk about the management types in that video to really get a good sense of what that's all about and learn what you need to learn about the types of management to be able to answer the questions on the test and oh, by the way, do the assignments, all right? Because it's all building block related. So everything that you see is going to reappear in either a requirement in an assignment or an actual test question. So that's how that works. So again, just to repeat, I'm gonna do these weekly commentaries. That gives you a view on what's important. You go to the main slide deck and you study that slide deck overall. That's your key piece. And then from that slide deck, you decide, okay, what am I going to look at you know, on the videos that are under topic, you know, each topic, and also, you know, where in the e-text that comes along with the Pearson Revel platform of the textbook, you know, the particular chapter. And you're going to see in the course outline where you can see the weekly piece schedule of how we run from the, you know, the topic 1 to topic 13 and when the tests are. And on the far column, you're going to see where you can read in the actual e-text of the course to get more information if you don't understand something. Okay, so that's how that works. So does anybody have any questions so far? And if you don't, can you just show me some thumbs up and let me know that, hey, you know, you're getting there. I'm getting my points across. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me get back to, you know, the original slide here that I started from. Okay, so this is what this focus is about, and now I want to emphasize this point. All right, you want better marks? Okay, so if you want better marks, especially in the early topics where we're talking about theorists and what their theories are in terms of management principles, you really need to know these theories, and you really need to apply those theories in the assignment. It's not enough just to say, you know, Weber is the key theorist in this area, and here's what he's doing. You need to say, yeah, here's Weber's principles in that theory, and then here as a management, say in the first one where you elaborate on being a manager on that individual assignment, as a manager, I resonate or I align with Weber because here's what I can show you from the Revel surveys that I've taken. This is the type of manager that I am at this point in time, right? And here's the theory, and then here's how I apply things as I'm working in the project team or as I'm working in the, you know, the group as we're doing these participation activities. Here's how I apply this theory because I align with them, you know, with the team that I'm working in. So that's what that's what I want to put across, is that I'm not only marking you on the content in the assignments, I'm marking you on how well you know the theories and how they apply to the situations that you're required to address in the assignments. So that's a key thing. And again, the weekly commentaries, they're going to, you know, if you go back down, and this is the, you know, the Blackboard navigational panel, you go down to weekly commentaries and you go into, you know, say week 1 commentary, and that's on topic 1, and this is what this presentation is all about. Okay, so you're going to get to work in groups, and you're going to get to work in groups pretty soon. So what I'll ask you to do is to go in as soon as you can, especially talk to some of the colleagues that are in your program right now and find out who you want to work with. And you click on here and you self-select to a particular group. And I've got, in this course, I've got groups from 1 to 30. So you pick a group and then you tell maybe your 2 cohorts, hey, you know what, here I've just enrolled in group 3. So if you 2 enrolled in group 3, then we're going to be part of that group. And this group now will be responsible for working together to do the group participation activities, to do the group assignments, and to do the group project. Okay, so that's where that's going to go. All right, so let me talk about issues that come across when you're working in groups. Some groups work tremendously, and they can really break down the work and get it done and come together and produce great submissions. Sometimes, you know, you're in a group, and I've been a student before as well, and I've worked in really good groups and I've worked in not so good groups. And what you have is you may have someone who doesn't quite meet the expectations. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and this is in topic 1, you know, and go to this Blackboard group team charter and get download this file. It's a Word doc file, and fill out this team charter. And what the team charter is, it covers a lot of what's shown in this illustration, where you're going to set some goals, you're going to set some expectations on behaviors, and all those things. So is it worth any marks? No. All right, but what is it worth? Well, just take a look at where we are in in our timeline in life right now. All right, we're post-pandemic. Global trading is expanding at uncharted levels, and what that means is that your teams are always going to be, in some cases, remote, and they're going to be all over the world in terms of time zones and whatever. And learning how to put this team charter together, because it's quite similar to, say, like a project manager's project charter, and it manages the expectations, and then it shows you how to manage conflicts and all those things. So you're going to get great use out of that. But secondly, what normally happens in the courses that I teach is that I don't really find out about the unsuccessful things that happen in a group until midway in the term, or even sometimes 2/3 in the term. And how much can I possibly help? And this is why it happens, is that in the first part of the term you don't have as many priorities, and then if someone in the group is not working well, the other two would be working around it. But what will happen is that as you get further into the term and you get into midterm exams and you get into more projects, there's a lot more pressure on you. Then all of a sudden it does become a problem, right? So I'm going to skip to one of the last slides and show you what it's part of this team charter. And let me get down to this end. And I'm going to talk about social loafing. Oops, I did it. Okay. So it's not uncommon for having some free riders on the team, and normally what will happen is it starts by, well, maybe they're really busy, and in some cases it's not even intentional. There's a lot of students that need to work to be able to support their tuition and everything else, and there's a myriad of reasons why some people can't perform at the levels that are expected by the group. So in that team charter, there's going to be a section in there, and what it's going to talk about, it's going to talk about tripwires. So what that means is, and in some cases, I get teams to actually rank students. We're not going to go there this term, but maybe later on I'm going to get to that in other courses. But what it is you take a look at what causes you concern that you actually need to come to me to be able to resolve the problem. And some of the things are minor, and what these tripwires of non-performance are all about is that you can have some serious conversations as a team to talk about this isn't working. So I want you to define what you think those tripwires can be, and tripwire 1 is not as serious as tripwire number 3. So if you get to tripwire number 3, that's when you call me, all right? And I get involved and we see what we can do. And in some cases, I've actually pulled people from a team and have them work by themselves because there was just not enough performance to help the other members of the team. So a tripwire 1 would be, Jasmine didn't come to the first meeting. Well, then you can have a discussion about that, and you have a clear, concentrated discussion about our coming together is going to be really important, foundational. That's how we get things done. And then say, okay, so you kind of get you get over that one, and then what happens is that, well, then Jasmine may not only show up at a meeting, but Jasmine was supposed to do something as a deliverable so that you could meet the deadline in putting in a submission. Well, that's getting more serious. So again, you have this conversation. And then, tripwire 3 is you lose communication with Jasmine. I mean, that's probably the ultimate one. That's when you finally come to me and you say, look at Instructor Gary, we can't even get a hold of Jasmine, so we want to do something. I will get involved in that. Okay, so I want you to take this document, fill it out, upload it. Okay, and I'm not going to mark it, but what happens though is that when you should have a problem and you contact me, I'm going to go to that document and see what you've done. That's the first place that I'm going to start to see how you managed expectations and how you looked at how you were going to divide the work and everything else. And if there's no charter there, well then I will not be as motivated to help at that point in time, right? So that's the key thing. So any questions about team charter right now? And what I recommend is that as you put your team together, download that, talk about it, fill it out, and then upload it. And I'm going to be looking at the uploading, on Blackboard, so I'll know who's uploaded what, within the due date and the deadline of that team charter to be done. Okay, we're all good. Okay, can I see some thumbs up? And is that pretty clear? Okay, great. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation here. Okay. All right. So what I'm trying to tell you again is that working the participation activities in each topic will have a great payoff for you, because not only will you be better prepared to do the assignments that are again outlined in the course outline and then shown under assessments under Blackboard, you'll be able to really do yourself a favor and learn the concepts much better, because you will have invested some time, and the work will in most cases be 80% done to be able to adjust it to use that framework to address a deliverable in those assignments. So it's really going to help you. You're going to get better marks, I'll guarantee it. Okay, and the thing is, it's good experience going through. So I talked about that. But here's where I really want to talk about the Revel surveys. All right, I only wish that when I was at your stage, that I would have had this kind of course, because as I worked through advancement in my career, I had to do these surveys, and I would be evaluated based on that, on whether I should get promoted or not, whether I was a good fit for a particular team. And again, planning is a gap analysis. So it's all about where are you now, where do you want to be, how do you get there? And so that the Revel surveys really will give you some great insights about yourself. And what that will do is that will give you a baseline of where you're at. And then you look at your future and you say, where do you want to be in your personal future in terms of the skill level that you have, the capabilities? How do you want to be an elite performer in a particular area? And you know what? Some of you might be entrepreneurs, start your own businesses. Others might be working in large corporations where there's a lot of corporate activity going on, and you want to be a middle manager or a CEO. And others may be working in government or nonprofits. But still, there's better fulfillment in being an elite performer. And a statistic that's known is that if you're in the top 20% of your field, no matter what field you are, in this new contract version of the working world, where you can get laid off, just like that. There's no such thing as a lifetime job anymore. If you're in that top 20%, you will always have opportunities for employment. And that's one of the motivators to really make you think about this. So what I'm asking you to do is that, think about what you want to be in your future, get a good baseline of where you are at the, because of the Pearson Revel surveys, and then you know what that gap is, and then you know how to create an action plan to be able to do that. And that's involved in everything, in project planning, in marketing planning, in strategic planning. It's all about where are you now, where do you want to be, and how are you going to get there. All right, so it's a fundamental piece. And again, when you take the Revel survey, it's a snapshot, and it gives you a sense of what your attributes are, what your capabilities are at that point in time that you did the survey. But it really does give you a sense of who you are and what you're all about, and where you are at a particular level, so that if you want to look at something in the future, you know what you have to go through. All right, so that's key. And people pay a lot of money for these type of surveys to get done with with consultants, and you have a chance to do this all in one one bundle, which is a great opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so right today and before next week, I want you to go to Blackboard, and you're going to see a pre-assessment. And you don't have to do anything in terms of reading or whatever. This pre-assessment is to really give you a base level of, where are you at as, in terms of manager attributes and skills and capabilities. So when you click on this pre-assessment on Blackboard, it'll take you right to my Google Docs and this survey, and you fill out that survey online and you hit submit. And then as you submit, you will receive an email, because it's going to ask you for your email, an email copy with what you've done in terms of the content of completion, and I will get a message saying, yes, you fulfilled that. And this is worth 1% of your total mark, but it'll really give you a good sense of where you're at. All right, and here's this little drawing again in terms of where are you now, and that's what this is going to do for you. And then where do you want to be? And then how are you going to get there? And so that you'll have some goals, in this course, and you'll have some goals in this RDP program, and you'll have some goals, personal goals on what you achieve. And this will take you a lot more further in terms of understanding, how you could be successful in your life, post degree or diploma. Okay. And again, when you take a look at this gap analysis, right, that's between your current state and your desired end state. When you take a look at that, some things are just operational, all right, and some things are very strategic in terms of gaps. So let me give you an example of that. So from an operational gap, you'll say, okay, I want to be a top salesperson, all right. But if you want to be a top salesperson, what level of negotiating skills do you have? And if they're very low, well, that's an operating gap. All I do is I take training. I go to Dr. Google, I find a micro credential on negotiating, or I find a program that I can get into and learn how to negotiate, and that's going to fill that gap, right? Now the thing is that let's say what's strategic. Well, if you take a look at, let's say that you run a consulting firm and you're in customer relationship management, okay, and so that you got this software and you work with clients, okay, but you work with frontline clients, and that's what your expertise is. But you're saying, there's more to this. This organization should work with executive level people in other organizations so they can set policy. Well, that's a big gap. That's really, what you're doing is you'd have to enhance your core competencies in that organization. That's a strategic gap. So you got to understand that, what's strategic and what's operational, and then how do I fill that gap and become an elite business manager leader, right? So that's how that goes. So again, here's what the gap analysis is all about. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? How you're going to get there, and your action plan, outlines how you're going to get there. But what want to emphasize is that just take a look at where we are in the history of the globe, right? We've gone through a major pandemic. And because of that, we've gone in a another quantum in terms of working digitally, right? And then you're on the cusp of where artificial intelligence and robotics is going to shape what the future business is going to look like. So what does that all mean? That means change, right? And big change is transformation, right? So this course will kind of get you ready for that. And we're going to talk about change management in one of the topics. But think of it in terms of what kind of skills that you're going to need to be able to address those future challenges. And in some cases, we don't even know what those challenges are like. And in this other presentation that I'm going to do a video for you in terms of the evolution of management theories, I'm going to challenge you to think about where you're going to really get a sense. So you have a chance to get a leg up on your competition and get into that top 20% right from this course, okay? To be able to really understand that. And we're going, when I talk to you about change management and transformation, I've got a lot of experience in that. Like I actually led a group that we changed the service delivery system at TELUS, which was a $60 million operation and maintenance operation, 1,200 people, and you want to talk about transformation. So I've got a lot of stories to share with you around that so that you can really understand that. So first and foremost, if you understand change as a management, as a manager or a leader, you're really going to be a lot more effective in getting people to follow you and get things done to achieve the goals of the organization. So that's absolutely key. Okay, so this is a little more about current state assessment. So really what you're doing with these Revel surveys is your information gathering. And when you compare that against where you want to be, you're gonna get a sense of, well, what kind of solutions am I looking for to be able to get into that elite performer category as I go through, and understand on the current state, what you're doing is you're developing that baseline, that personal baseline, through those 30 plus Pearson Revel surveys you're going to complete. So this is a great opportunity for you. That's what I'm trying to say. And then also, the thing is that, let me just check this here. I just let somebody in and I want to make sure that I'm not, okay, so I'm not muted. Okay, so the thing is here is that it's really going to give you a good sense of where you're at and then what you need to do. And not only that, you're going to get better marks in this course. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is a little bit more about the current state analysis, but it's the foundation for your strategy to think about that. And so not only am I talking to you about the gap analysis for your personal life, we're going to come back to this when it comes to looking at strategic planning, looking at business planning, and looking at strategy, right down to price strategy on the marketing side. And the thing is that in the current state, if you don't analyze root causes, what's really the problem, instead of just thinking what the problem is because there's particular symptoms, it's really going to give you a good sense of what your baseline is if you look at that. And we're going to talk about, decision making and how to make better decisions. And better decisions are based on better assumptions and doing due diligence. And really uncovering what the root causes of the problems are to be able to make good decisions to solve those problems. So that's coming in another topic as well. Okay, so here's my work over the last 30 years. And what I believe in is I believe in mental models. And so some people call them mental models, some people call them frameworks, some people call them, just straight illustrations. But here's a few things. I've used this model now for many, many years, And guess what? I didn't develop this model myself. This actually is a Xerox model from the 70s when Xerox was the copier producer in the world. Okay, but what I've done though is I really kind of honed and kind of elaborated on that. So let me talk about your current state. Where are you now? It's just as important to know how did you get there, and where are you going right now at this particular point in time, and then looking at where should we be going? What's the direction? And then how do you get there? So then you have particular goals, and you may have strategic goals, and strategic goals are basically keeping the lights on in the organization. I couldn't say that any simpler. So let's just talk about I talked about the example of an organization that does customer relations management, and they provide this consulting to other organizations. Well, if they don't have proper customer relations management software, and it's always breaking down, that's strategic. If it breaks down, then they can't do work. So that's very strategic, and that's keeping the lights on. Whereas here, if they decide then that they want to work with executives along with frontline people in helping them do better customer relations, well, then they need to bring in better competencies, maybe more tools. Well, that's a stretch strategic goal, all right? And then I talked to you about Stephen Covey. Well, Stephen Covey's son is Franklin Covey, and Franklin Covey took his father's work, his father's passed on now, and created the Franklin Institute through a merger with other consultants, and they're really great at doing research when it comes to planning. And they came up with this table, and they said, all right, if you set too many goals, so 11 to 20 goals, how are you going to get excellent if your resources are being pulled apart and they're disparate and they're spread out? So chances are you'll achieve 0 goals with excellence. Okay, so you cut it back and you look at maybe 4 to 10 goals. And these are the goals here on how do you get there. And you look at 4 to 10 goals, and then okay, so now you can marshal your resources a little bit better and marshal your time management and your capabilities, and you may get 1 or 2 goals. But if you focus and you do wildly important goals, and this is where Franklin Institute talks about their 4DX goal setting, and I'll mention that down the road in another topic. That's something you should explore because it's probably some of the best thinking around goal setting that there is out there. And so that if you keep it down to wildly crazy goals, and 2 to 3, chances are you're gonna achieve those 2 to 3 goals with excellence. And then I want to talk about this is another Stephen Covey framework that he's put together. There's the 4 quadrants, and what it is that there's things that are urgent and not important, and that would be quadrant 3. And there's things that are not important and not urgent. Well, you don't even want to be in this quadrant. But we tend to spend a lot of our time in quadrant 1, where it's important and it's urgent, right? So that we may not be able to think about growing and getting to a different place because we're too busy trying to deal with the urgent concerns that are very important. And what Stephen Covey was saying is that you should spend at least 30% of your time working on things that are very important but not urgent, and that prepares you to grow and expand and get into higher capabilities to be able to do more and do more effectively and succeed and grow. Right, so those are the things of planning that we're going to talk about in the topics as you go through. Now, this is just what's on your Blackboard page, and if you go to assessments on Blackboard, you're going to see that all these assignments that are here, you can get to them by clicking on these links and looking at what they look like, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So let me, okay, so I'm just going to leave the sharing part so I can pick up a file. So if I forget to share, please let me know that I'm not sharing anymore. Okay, so let's just stop, and I'm going to pick up a file here.
Hi, Mr. Gary.
Yes, go ahead.
I accidentally clicked the group number and it doesn't allow me to sign out. Is it okay to exit on that group?
Yeah, it can, but send me an email with your name and which group that you tried to access, and let me know, maybe you have a group that you're preferring right now. So let me know what that is, and I'll make the switch for you, okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, so, okay, so let me, I'm just trying to find a file here. Okay. Okay, I'm almost there. Okay, now I want to make sure that I can share this with you again. Okay. So I'm hoping now that you can see this. Can you maybe just give me a thumbs up that you can actually see this is the team project assignment description. Okay, thank you. All right, so let me talk about this assignment a little bit to kind of give you a sense of, what I'm expecting from you, and then what are some of the things that maybe go sideways sometimes. So the first thing is that, this is the second term now that I've been teaching this course, and some of the teams really just skimmed through the instructions and didn't read them. And so right off the top, right, it says here, there's going to be 30 questions, and this is about Amazon, right? And all the learnings that you learn in those participation activities are going to come to bear on this assignment. And what it says is you don't have to answer all 30 questions. What you need to do is you make a selection of questions. So here there's 30 questions that you could answer, and you'll take a look at example one, like group one decided to answer questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that, totaled 102 points. So that's exactly, where we're getting. Team two might have, looked at different other questions, and they totaled 104 marks. So you're being marked on a, basis on 104. And that means that, you've only selected enough questions to get to the 100 mark and just a little bit over. And what I've had is, I bet you, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 teams answered all 30 questions. And how did I deal with that? I looked at the first, the first number of questions that got to 100, and I marked it. And which means that, all those other questions that they answered and they spent all that effort could have went in to those number of questions that were important and got a much better mark. So that's right from the top. The second thing is that what I want you to do is I want you to, when you identify these questions in the assignment, you use the very number that the question is at. So maybe you had questions 1, 3, and 5. You don't readdress them as questions 1, 2, 3. You address them as questions 1, 3, and 5. And because I've got these Excel spreadsheets where I look through and I need to find those questions because I have certain rubric percentage marks for the things that I'm looking for. And again, in this assignment, I'm looking at did you reference a theory? Do you understand that theory? I'm going to mark you along that. Do you really know what that theory is? And did you apply that theory? Because that's part of the marking rubric that I'm going to use. Okay. And what it is that I need you to help me help you, and help me navigate your assignment. And what I mean by that is to use headings, subheadings, and numbering structures, so I can actually follow what the question was and then follow what you've done. And because I get some reports where I get a paragraph and I have to figure out, you know, what was 1A and 1B or whatever. And what that does is it takes my effort away from really understanding if you should get really better marks or not. And if if I get frustrated that way, you're not being marked as fair as what I could mark it. All right. So that's what that's all about. And again, here's the instructions, read them through, and you can see this is all about Amazon. But here's the thing. All right. Okay. Identify elements of an organizational structure as they apply to Amazon. Well, guess what? One of your participation activities is to create an organizational structure, so that you've done a PowerPoint and you show an organizational structure and you've got it done. Then all you need to do is, and you've understood, what's required in that topic on how to build an organizational structure, then you can apply all that work that you did as a team directly to this Amazon assignment. All right, so it saves you a lot of time, and not only that, you've got a lot of the work done, so that the content is not only there, but the professional aspects of making it look like a great report, and that you can demonstrate your due diligence, gets you there. So if you take a look at this assignment here, you can see where I embolden all these things that you're going to see in the participation exercises. Like, you're going to say something about corporate culture. You're going to do a PESL, which is an environmental scan, for a particular organization. You're going to do a SWOT analysis. You're going to do a VRIO analysis, and the VRIO analysis really gives you a sense of an organization. It gives you the baseline of how ready they are to change and how they can evolve. We're going to get to that. The BCG matrix, you're going to have to create a Boston Consulting Group matrix for a particular example, and then you'll have that work to be able to transfer into this assignment based on which questions that you answer. So that's why this is so key, is that think of these participation activities as building blocks, where your group is going to come together. You're going to learn from each other. You're going to build some insights, or gain some insights and build some knowledge around that. And then when it comes to the final assignment, you're going to be able to execute in a very effective and efficient way. And that's what I hope that you're going to get to. And guess what? That's deliberate practice, right? You set goals on what kind of execution that you're going to do, and you get better and better on working as a group to be able to finalize these deliverables as you get to the final product. Okay, so that's where that is. Okay, here's where I am. Okay, and I'm gonna just show the slideshow is on the current slide, and then I'm just gonna get ready here. Sorry, I'm working off of two screens, so I'm trying to see everything and what we're going on. So I don't see any questions in the chat right now. And if you do have some questions, and maybe I won't have time to answer them during this session, but also, I want to be able to, I'll get back to you. So if you do have a question, don't ever shy off from sending me an email, an RDP email, because I respond to RDP emails much sooner and faster. And the reasons why is because, I'm part-time, so I have other things that I do in my corporate life here in my home office. And a lot of times I'll be just in the parking lot waiting for my wife to come out of Sobeys, and I'll be able to answer your question right off my smartphone, rather than having to figure out who you are, what stream you're in, and go home and do it in my home office. So help me help you is what I'm trying to say here. Okay. All right. Okay. So, we talked about begin with the end in mind. So as your groups come together, you do your team charter, you start working on the participation activities as a group for the ones that, are group activities, because there's some individual activities that you have to do as an individual student. But what I want you to do is, I want you to go to this article. Here's the the URL to get to that article. And I want you to read on, these 14 leadership principles that Amazon has incorporated into their organization. One is to really give you a sense of, where Amazon is going. And if you put that across from what the assignment description is, you'll get a sense of, what I'm looking for. One. So again, it's sort of like, start with, begin with the end in mind, and you'll be able to make better sense out of, what these participation activities, where they're going and why they're being asked for in the Amazon project assignment. Not only that, let's talk about, again, we talked about, where are we in our world history, is that the thing of the future, just take a look at Amazon. They have AWS, they're into artificial intelligence. Their benchmark, leading benchmark in logistics, in distribution, in CRM, customer relationship management. So they're at the forefront. So they're a great benchmark to look at, in terms of, future modeling for where you're going to be when you leave this program in business. So it really gives you a good sense of, this is the kind of organization, this is where organizations are going. And oh, by the way, Amazon and Google and whatever, they're not this, bureaucratic organization anymore. They're project driven, right? They're project driven. And what does project driven mean? They're off into looking at key opportunities, and sometimes the opportunities are related, or sometimes they're in that line of business, but they all involve transformation, change, regrouping, getting new core competencies. So this will be a great example for you and a great learning experience to be able to take those insights and then apply them as you get into, your challenges over the next 10 years. Okay. So again, I talked about, looking at the slide presentation in each topic. Okay, so here's one piece. Whenever you start seeing, yellow highlighting, and look at yellow arrows, you'll see that the 4 functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, is very important. Oh, there's likely going to be a few questions on the test about that, right? And then understand that how this works in relation to the levels of management, because you're going to see in some of these things as I go through these slides. But planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Well, what is planning? Well, you better know what that is. And what's key in that is that's where goals and objectives and strategies get done, from a management function point of view. All right. What is organizing? Well, we're going to learn a lot about organization structure. We're going to learn a lot about work organization and process. And so that's what that's all about. And then leading. Leading is all about motivating, directing, and making sure that the work gets done. And then controlling. It's not controlling as in terms of the whip on people. Controlling is about what you measure based on a target that you set as a manager, and look at the gaps and look at the variances to be able to get to that target, and based on the goals of the organization. So this is really key that you're learning in topic 1. So you want to go back to that slide deck in topic 1, go through all those slides, and then possibly even learn more by reading the text, the e-text in the book, and then going through the videos that Professor Powers have prepared. Okay, and so that, where does all this end up? How does this all come together? Planning, organizing, leading, controlling. Here's where it comes together. What's in the strategic domain? Well, you're setting direction. From the leading part. What's in the operational domain? Well, you're doing a lot of controlling in terms of delivering results. And you can see that between direction and results, planning and organizing becomes very important. You're seeing between setting strategic direction and building relationships, on making your employees the best that they can. Well, that's creating alignment. I'm going to talk about alignment a lot in this course, and then it all comes down in the middle around leading. And so that here's the theorist now of fail. What has fail done in terms of these 4 functions of management, and what does fail know about that? And then you might say in your individual assignment, I'm this type of manager when it comes to planning and organizing, along the lines of what fail has described. And here's some applications of these theory of what I've experienced and how I've been successful or not successful, or however you want to talk about that. So that's how that's all going to come together. And you can see this slide is. Oops. Oh yeah, so we need to mute that person. Okay, you can see this slide is taken right out of the slide deck. So that slide deck in each topic is the primary reference point to start things. And then to know that formal management, you need to understand that to do your assignments and be successful on the test. The types of management. What's the difference between functional managers and general managers? Well, functional managers, what's a function? Well, marketing is a function. Production, that's a function. Finance is a function. So that if you're a manager of finance, then you're a functional manager. And then you're going to produce, say, a finance plan for the financial area of that company. Whereas a general manager is that you have different types of functional managers, say, reporting to you. So you're sort of a mini CEO, a chief executive officer, where you're running an organization of various functions that come together. So those are the kind of things that you need to understand. Then what do managers do, in terms of actionable, how they motivate, how they guide people. So those are all important things that you need to go through. So let's look at Chester Barnard. So Chester Barnard now is highlighted. That means to you that he's one of the theorists. You have to really take a look at all those theorists that are mentioned in topic 1, but he's one that's key. And so what does Chester Barnard contribute in terms of management theories? Well, the basic ideology of an organization, purpose and values. We're going to talk about core values quite a bit. We're going to talk about, long-term goals. We're going to talk about growth and development of the organization. And we're going to be able to work on what we call the balanced scorecard. That's another mental model. That's another framework that you're going to have to do in the participation activities, and then relate that through in some of those group assignments that in 1 or 2 of them, so that the better you do work around the balanced scorecard piece, the more effective and the more successful you're going to be in getting better marks on the tests and getting better marks in the assignments. And one other thing to take a look at is that when I show you these things, and you can see that I've highlighted Chester Barnard, pay attention to where I actually embolden things as well. So one of the key things that Chester Barnard was concerned about is how the manager brings stability to the organization. All right, and that's something that you should look into. They reduce instability by doing these basic things that are part of his theories of management. And what you'll understand as well is that a lot of these theorists have worked, with leaders in that field in previous timelines, so that they're carrying on the work and now they're elaborating on it. So Chester Barnard, may have been a student of a key theorist, that came before him, and that's something to keep track of as well. So what are the functions of an executive? What's the role of management? Those kind of things that are really important. And then method of communication, and find out what is a zone of indifference where subordinates will not challenge communication from superiors. Understand what that is. You see that it's highlighted, and then understand responsibility versus authority in a particular position in authority of leadership. So all those things. Here's another person, Charles Spalding, that you should really know a lot about going through, and his 8 fundamental necessities of management. And in the next presentation, where I show you the evolution of management theories, you're going to see how this all kind of comes together. Okay, so again, go through this presentation, take a look at what's been highlighted, so that use that as a focus to find out really what you need to go back into your topic to be able to understand what's important in terms of tests and assignments, and that'll serve you quite well. So here's one that's really important, levels of management. And this is sort of a generalization, but they break it down into lower level management, middle level management, top level management. Something I can tell you about lower level management, right? Lower level management, you know, from research done in North America, is the most trusted group of people in the organization, right? So that's really important, knowing that you have to build trust, you know, with frontline employees. But even if you're a higher level management, you really need to understand, well, what kind of tools and information and coaching does lower level management need to be the best lower level management they can be, to create the best trust, to create the best alignment of personal worker goals with corporate goals, and be successful overall in the organization. So those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about in that. And you can see that as you move up the organization into top management, well, you gain more and more responsibility, but then your authority overall is lessened. You have great authority over your immediate reporters, but it's the lower and operative management that have the most authority, in terms of with their people. Okay, and then this is a key slide. It's like, understand that as you move up the organization, you do a lot more planning, all right, and a lot less leading, because the leading is done here in terms of the lower management actually guides, and they motivate, and they control the flow of work, so they're leading a lot more at a lower level, and then as you move up, you're leading a lot less, but you're organizing a lot more, and you're controlling a lot more in the organization. So this is a key, a key piece, and the odd time, I'll put a key up here, and then that really gives you a sense of, hey, this is really important to know. Okay, and then understanding, leadership versus management. And in today's world, let's go back 30, 40 years. You were a manager or you were a leader, right? And leaders did certain things and management did certain things. But in today's world, based on, the new types of organizational structures and whatever, that's coming together. So, to be a good manager, you got to understand how to lead. And to be a good leader, you got to understand how to manage. And that's sort of coming together. But I've got some slides here that we don't have time to go through, but I want you to go, look at them. They'll give you a really good overview of what to look at in terms of, in managing, you're basically working out of policies and procedures. You're managing the work. You're work focused. You can have an authoritarian style because you got to get stuff done. You got to get to the results. But when you're leading, you're on the vision side of that. You need to create value. You need to, be people focused, and in some cases you need to be charismatic. But to be a good manager, you got to understand some of this to work in here, and to be a good leader, you got to understand all of this going through. And then again, you take a look at management. It's all about doing things right, and in terms of leadership, it's doing the right things. So doing things right, that's more around efficiency. Doing the right things, that's more around effectiveness, right? And so that you need to learn those particular kind of things. So I want you to go through this. So here's something that's enlightening, all right? you take a look at, we're gonna talk a lot about management style, and we're gonna measure your management style in the Pearson Revel surveys. And we're going to talk about leadership skills, and we're going to talk about situation management, because the situations sometimes dictate on how you manage. All right. So if you're trying to do all of this, you're going to have limited success. If you're working in a situation, well, then your leadership skills are going to be a lot more prevalent in working in this situation, and you'll have greater success. So there's an insight to know when it's important to be what, in terms of style and skills, and based on a particular situation. And, we're going to cover that in this course. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about that. Mintzberg is a very important character, in terms of a theorist. He's still living today. He's probably about 76 years old. He's at McGill and still publishing. Mintzberg's one bilingual Canadian that not only has written a lot in management theory, but is a guru in strategic planning. And he talks about how to do this. And Peter Drucker is one of the the foundational type of business people that you should read about. And the task of leadership is to create alignment of strengths, so that to make people's weaknesses irrelevant. And we're going to talk a lot about alignment as we go through. Matter of fact, this is one of the things that I produce because I build these things. I call them business knowledge maps. And alignment is not just one thing. It's how you can direct in terms of clarity. It's how much that you can focus on to make sure that you have an impact. That you do the right things, and then getting the impact on what you need to do, and then achieving the results. So these are all the things that have to align, in terms of, the purpose and core values. And here's the tools that you need to do the job. And we're going to talk a lot about all of this in this course. And I'm hoping that you'll leave with a few insights, and I'd like you to really understand that you should really understand what your core values are. And whether we know it or not, most of your decisions are based on the core values that you have, whether you know what they are or not. So it's best to know what your core values are and where the priorities are in those core values, so you understand how you're making decisions and where you have biases and whatever. We're going to get to that in topic 3. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk to you about this time. But I want to give you some tools as you move forward. And one of the things that stops us from being the better performers that we could be is procrastination. And I want you to kind of just have a look at what Brian Tracy has to say about procrastination. And he talks about eat that frog. And what eat that frog is all about is, we tend to want to do the easy stuff first a lot. And sometimes if we nail down one of those key things that we have to get done, we get it out of the way, and it doesn't impede us from getting to a higher level of performance. Where Seth Godin talks about in Poke the Box, he's saying, you just got to start. And sometimes just starting and setting up, a habit on top of a regular habit that you have will get you to a level of performance you never dreamed that you'd get to. And we're going to talk about that a little more, right? But what the priority is from this week is to go into topic 1. There's 2 participation activities to do. I believe both of them are individual things. I want you to go into the pre-assessment, get that done hopefully before next week. It's about maybe a 10-minute process to be able to do that. You pull up you click on the pre-assessment survey. It comes up. You fill out the form. You hit submit. It goes in, and then really comb my particular commentary presentation, and then let that guide you as you go through the main slide deck in that topic. And then that main slide deck will put you into maybe getting more clarification by some of the videos that are there in that topic that are produced by Professor Powers. And then from the course outline, you'll see we know where the chapters are relevant in the textbook that's related to this course that you could do further reading to get some explanations. So what to remember is, we're into deliberate practice, and everything that we do from topic 1 all the way through is the building blocks to filling those assignments. And the best thing that you can do is get your group together. So self-enroll, get the group up and running, do the team charter, print out all the assignments so that you can see what's going to be requested, and then you'll see how important each participation activity is as you do them, and you excel at doing them, and you set goals for some great performance, and keep that material to be able to fill out the deliverables in those assignments. And one of the key ones, and it's worth 8% of your final mark, is the cupcake group assignment. And it's a lot around cost accounting. And what I'd recommend is that Professor Powers have done a lot of videos around the cost accounting. And there's one thing I think that the students missed in my last term is that there's 2 types of cost of goods sold. And one is if you're reselling something, you don't really take a look at manufacturing direct labor that goes in, but you in the cupcake, you're actually producing something. So you have to take a look at, the labor component of cost of goods sold, the direct labor component, and understand that. And we'll cover that as we go through. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. So at some point in time, I'll produce this video on the evolution of management theory so that you can go through that. But the presentation is under, the weekly commentary, week 1 commentary folder, and you can find that right now. And also, there's some additional things that I put in there that you may be interested in. I talk about doing a baseline. Well, I've got the a circle of life thing that I've produced that I've drawn from the internet to get a baseline of where you are emotionally and financially and all those things. You might want to have a look at that. It's not related to the course, but I thought I could help you there. And again, if you have any questions, email me and I will respond, on the announcement portion of Blackboard. Okay, so any questions at all?
Mr. Gary?
Yeah, go ahead.
I sent you email regarding the group.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'll have a look at that, and by tomorrow I'll give you some advice on what you can do, and if I have enough information, I'll do it for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Any other questions? One other thing is that the registrar uncapped the number of students that could be on this online, and you may have some friends or cohorts that couldn't get in to this CRN or this stream, and let them know that they're allowed to get in now, and we're gonna take on a lot more students on this area, which means there are going to be a lot more teams and everything else. Okay. And we'll leave it at that. Okay, so I hope that I've given you a good idea of how this course is going to go. There's a lot of material, and that's why I have the commentary presentations, is to sort of keep you focused and you don't get overwhelmed with what's going on. But if you do a little bit every week, you're going to be in good shape to be able to get good marks in this course and really come away, a better business practitioner, and with some plans to improve that and become an elite performer. Okay, so we'll catch you next week, and look forward to sending you my video, and I'll send you that link. And oh, by the way, this video will not only be in MS Teams, but I do have a channel on YouTube that you can access, and I'll send you the link so that you can for people that aren't on this right now, they can go back to this video and find out what we talked about. Okay, so have a good evening, get some good rest.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take care. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Thank
sir.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Mr. Gary,
Yes.
I'm sorry to catch you late.
Yeah, no problem.
How many members in a group is allowed? Like the maximum? It's only 3.
Yeah, it's only 3. You know, if I could go to 4, if you wanna, if you wanna bring in a 4th member, I'm fine with that. But that's about it. And it gets down to when the groups get larger, it's easier for some people to just kind of coast. And with 3 people, everybody's got work to do. So that's really the main driver for having a smaller group. But if you wanted to go to 4, I would accommodate that.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Gary. Have a nice
Okay.
evening.
All right, you too.